Hey everyone, my name is Jason Schmaltz and I am no longer an AMGA single pitch instructor. I am now an AMGA rock guide apprentice. The past 2 weeks I've spent at the rock guide course up in Brevard, which is hosted by the AMGA, and I got to build my skills and gain some new access to new terrain that I'm going to spend talking to you about in this video. So the first thing I want to highlight to you is why I took the rock guide course and kind of where it fits in the AMGA guide track. So I personally am pursuing the rock guide track in the AMGA set of tracks. There's also an alpine track and a ski track. And the rock guide course is kind of the gateway to the upper level certifications in the rock guide track. So becoming an assistant rock guide, which gains you access to grade 3, grade 4 terrain, unsupervised, and then ultimately rock guide, which then you're allowed to basically guide anything. It also facilitates you to enter into the upper certifications of the alpine track and ski track if you want to pursue that. But I live in the Southeast, and we don't have a lot of skiing here, so I'm just focused on rock climbing. Additionally, in my guiding career, I want to guide multi-pitch, and so this gains me access to guide grade 2 multi-pitch, which is on order of 3 to 4 pitches, with some exceptions, unsupervised, and also allows me to guide grade 3 multi-pitch supervised by a certified rock guide. And the AMGA is big on that and guiding in bigger terrain than what you're allowed to do by yourself, as long as you have supervision, in order to facilitate mentorship. And I've gained a lot of that out of being a part of the AMGA over the past couple of years. Before I talk to you about what was actually in the course, I want to highlight the prereqs that you need to complete for the rock guide course if you want to take it. I found that in completing the prereqs, I grew more in the last year and a half working on those prereqs than I did the entire previous part of my rock climbing career. Maybe with the exception of like the first 6 months of rock climbing where you have that initial growth. The first big prereq to complete is to climb 10 grade 3 climbs. Grade 3s are on order of 6 to 10 pitches, between maybe 600 and 1,000 feet or so, depending on the descent and approach. And I spent some time in the Southeast region completing that. I also spent a significant amount of time in Red Rocks, which I highly recommend to go to do some of your prereqs. And then I went to Circuit of the Towers in Wyoming as well a couple times and got not just grade 3s, but also grade 4s, which was really beneficial for me. And I was able to network a lot in that journey, build a lot of relationships with some guides in different parts of the country. I really got a lot out of that. The second part of the prereqs is to climb 10, 510 or more difficult trad climbs. This is to make sure that you build the foundation of your climbing movement, which is part of your kind of safety as a guide. If you can minimize the amount that you fall as a guide, you will increase the safety of the group. And by having this type of movement standard, that helps to ensure that. So I got a lot out of climbing 510 and harder in trad, mainly mental growth, being able to not be afraid to fall on gear. And of course, as a guide, you need to not be afraid. You need to be able to trust your gear. And I was able to build some of that initial trust through that part of the journey. And then the last prereq is that you climb or mock guide 50 multi-pitch climbs of any difficulty. And all those climbs I just listed out, they can overlap. So if you climbed a 510 grade 3, that can count in all 3 of those categories. So it's not quite as much climbing as it might sound like, but it is a decent amount. But like I said, I grew a lot doing that and felt very prepared to enter the rock guide course and meet the movement standard, in addition to also understanding some of the technical systems that we reviewed in the course. It is important to understand that all the participants that you'll be in the course with have also completed those prereqs. So everybody that you're doing the course with, most of them are probably guides, but then also they're going to be very knowledgeable on all the systems and knots and all that type of stuff. So you're climbing with people that you can build trust with pretty quick and work together with pretty easily. The guide kit that I took to the course was my standard trad rack, including I think I had 8 alpine draws. You could do 8 or 10 maybe. It just depends on where you take the course. And then my guide kit itself was 5 locking carabiners, 6 non-locking carabiners, a couple Prereqs. I think I had 4 slings of different lengths, including a quad length sling, and a cordelet, a gree-gree, and an ATC. And so that was kind of my standard guide kit. That's the kit that they want you to be able to complete the rock rescue drill with as well, minus the gree-gree. And then I maybe had an extra locker or 2 just because I didn't like doing musical chairs with my lockers holding stuff while I was doing some of the systems. But that was the kit that I used. I found that was a really good balance of being able to build systems but not be totally bogged down on my harness as I built those systems. So in the first part of the course, we jumped right into learning the Caterpillar method of managing a group of 3, the guide being the leader of the group of 3, so 2 followers or 2 clients. That was really useful to review some of the old knots and systems that we came into the course understanding, although the instructors did a great job of showing us really good tips and tricks on how to tie munters and preloaded positions. They showed us a really cool trick, which I'll show you actually in just a second on the skills board, how to go from a munter to a clove hitch without having to untie the munter. So I'll show you that in a second. And we learned also how to anticipate transitions that would be coming when doing Caterpillar. So for example, if you're topping out on a final pitch, you can do a lot of pre-rigging for a rappel before your clients arrive at the belay station, which I'll probably do a separate video on, but it really makes it super easy to go into that transition of rappelling without having everybody clove in first. Now we set everything up. Now everybody gets their rappel device in, and now everybody uncloves versus just going straight into their rappel. Again, I'll highlight that on the second video, as well as end roping techniques. So going from steep 5th class to maybe a 3rd, 4th class where you can have the clients go to 1 rope and kind of simplify your life, as well as some other tips and tricks on just how to make Caterpillar belaying and multi-pitch efficient. And they just showed us so many great tricks on how to not get the rope tangled. And we came out of that module feeling very confident. We got to practice a lot in the terrain we would be guiding in, get pointers, and everybody came out a lot more confident of not getting ropes all tangled up and looking silly or taking up a bunch of time on the wall. So as I'm belaying them up, I can flip this munter into the loaded position, unlock the gate, and then I need to make 1 extra loop on my partner's side. So just like how you tie a clove in the air, you want to think about 2 loops. And if you remember, when you make an air clove, the 2 loops have the vertical, 1 on the back side and 1 on the front side. So you make your loop so that they're shown in that configuration as well. So I'll make my loop and put that into the carabiner. Okay, I now have a clove, but I still have an extra loop in the carabiner. So I will flip this whole knot and then I'll take that loop out of the carabiner, and then I can lock down. Additionally, during this time, we got to build our initial trust and friendships. The instructors, Paul and Christian, did a great job of facilitating a learning environment versus an exam environment. So although there was some pressure, to perform in front of your peers, they did a good job of, opening up the floor to taking risks in a way like, trying systems out in front of them, where they could give you pointers versus me just trying to do systems I knew I would do perfect. So I really liked that, and I treated the course more like a course than being examined by the instructors, although there was some small exam elements of the course. The second part of the course was spent on rescue techniques, specifically around what's called the rock rescue drill. And the rock rescue drill is something that you had to perform in the next certification, which is the aspirant exam or advanced rock guide course. where you basically rescue 2 climbers from a multi-pitch scenario. The techniques that we learn are super helpful for getting people out of different situations that may come up in multi-pitch. The rock rescue drill itself is, I would say, not impractical, but unlikely that you would do a rescue scenario exactly like that. However, the techniques that you learn can definitely be used in problem solving in many, many different scenarios, and the instructors were able to share some, practical, examples of when they had to use those techniques. So it was really beneficial, really highly technical systems, and really fun to learn. And me as a engineer, I used to be an engineer anyway, I really kind of dove into that type of stuff. In the last part of the rock guide course, we spent on parallel technique, and this is when you lead as the guide with 2 ropes attached to you, and then your climbers follow in parallel, so you have 2 climbers climbing at the same time. This is in some ways more complicated because the rope can get tangled more easily, but it's a very efficient way to climb, especially if you're doing bigger climbs like grade 3 and grade 4, where time is a factor. And so being able to have both of your followers climb at the same time on easier pitches really cuts down on the amount of time that you spend belaying. We were also able to start climbing harder grades at this point. We've been in the course for about 6 or 7 days, and so we were all able to meet our movement standard, which is you had to lead at least 1 pitch of 5/9 climbing clean on trad gear, which everybody was able to do in flying colors. So that was a lot of fun to see everybody get a good send and to practice that parallel technique. And the instructors, again, just like with the Caterpillar, did a great job of showing us a lot of different ways to keep the ropes from being untied or being tangled. And I feel very confident, now as a guide to guide in Caterpillar or parallel, depending on what the situation needs, and doing that successfully. So what's next for me? After completing the course, I plan to kind of use the skills I learned in grade 2 terrain, which is a lot of the multi-pitch terrain around here. But I am actively pursuing trying to take my advanced rock guide course within the next year to 18 months, assuming I'm able to kind of bring my movement standard up to what's required there. So in that, the movement standard basically goes up a grade. You have to be able to climb 510 plus on trad, maybe even 511 minus on sport, and you need to go in confidently being able to do that. That's going to take a little bit of work on my part on the off season. So this winter, I'll probably get a movement coach to just help me kind of, bring my climbing up maybe half a grade. And I think I'll be kind of, set. In addition to that, there are new prereqs, including mock guiding or guiding 20 grade 3 climbs, and then completing, I believe it's 10 grade 4 climbs, 5 of which have to be completed after your rock guide course. So I have to climb at least 5, which should be no problem. I'm going to Red Rocks this winter, and then I'm going, I believe, to Grand Teton next summer and doing some big stuff out there, which will be super fun. Hey, I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions about the AMGA guide track or the rock guide track, please leave some comments. Or please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to get to them. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to my channel. I have a lot more cool tutorials, especially around multi-pitch stuff. Excited to share what I learn with the audience that I have, and really appreciate you guys' support. Okay, we'll see you out on the crag.